Welcome into NFL on 365 Sports. I'm your host, Grayson Grunhafer, and of course, we're going to be talking about some betting lines today as conference championships are finally here in the NFL. Last week, what a fun divisional round. I mean, the playoffs in general have been really, really fun, but the divisional round last week, I mean, all of those games were so good. Obviously, it culminated with the Bills versus Chiefs, which is honestly one of the best playoff games I've seen in a really long time. Just fun to see Mahomes versus Josh Allen, kind of two guys who are younger, trying to emerge as more than just great quarterbacks, but NFL legends, of course, in Mahomes' case, going for his second Super Bowl. So really, really fun to see those two duel it out. Last week, just recapping how we did, not great. We were 4-3 last week, or at least I was, and the tough part for me was I thought the Titans were going to beat the Bengals, and honestly, if Ryan Tannehill would have not been the quarterback, like if you subbed him for Jimmy Garoppolo, they probably win that game by 2 scores, but Ryan Tannehill did everything he could to allow the Cincinnati Bengals to win that game. So I missed on the Titans minus 3.5. I missed on the Bills, which that's a tough one, right? So the Bills plus 2, I was feeling really good about that. And then, of course, the last 13 seconds happened. Mahomes was able to tie the game. Then it goes to overtime, and the Chiefs win. So we miss on that. But honestly, if it's going to take a 13-second miracle for me to lose a bet, I'm okay with it. I missed on the under as well. So those are my 3 misses last week. The hits of the week were the Rams plus 3 and the over. The Rams played really well against the Bucks. Tom Brady almost had a just great comeback win again, which is something he's done throughout his career. But the Rams were able to hold on thanks to an awesome drive by Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. And then they hit the game-winning field goal to get the win. So pushed on the plus 3, but the over obviously hit there. The Rams, able to pull off the upset, which I found really, really fascinating and kind of leads us into a great matchup this week for the NFC Championship. I also hit on the under 47.5 and the 49ers plus 6 as the Niners took on the Packers. I had a weird feeling about that game. I thought the Packers would win, but it would be close. The low scoring had everything to do with the weather, and the weather really showed up in that game. It was, like 10 degrees in Lambeau. So I felt good about that, was able to get those wins. So 4-3, I'm okay with that, right? You come out on the positive side of things last week. So now we are sitting here, conference championship week. The first game of the weekend is on Sunday at 2 p.m., so no more Saturday games. 2 p.m. game. The Chiefs are a 7-point favorite as the Cincinnati Bengals come into Arrowhead. It's a 54-point over-under. So expectations are a lot of points. The last time these two teams played was just, I believe, a little less than a month ago, and the Bengals won 34-31. So, so now you have this matchup, and it's kind of an interesting pace argument here. So the Bengals, yes, they're scoring a lot, and a lot of people have been talking about Joe Burrow and how great he is, and I like Joe Burrow a lot, and he's playing well, but let's be honest here. I mean, in the 2 games in the playoffs, the Bengals have scored a total of 45 points, so they're really not setting the world on fire scoring-wise. It's really been their defense and their pace of play. They've been able to run the ball effectively. The teams they've played have run the ball. And stylistically, their defense has really played well and allowed them to win these first 2 games. And now they're taking on a Chiefs team who has scored 84 points in their first 2 playoff games. So definitely conflicting styles there, but I do think this game favors the Chiefs as far as the pace of play goes, so I do believe the over will hit here. So I think this Chiefs-Bengals game will go over 54. And as far as the spread goes, I have a hunch that the Chiefs are going to be up in this game for majority of it, but for some reason, I think the Bengals could score a late touchdown and keep it somewhat manageable. But I think at the end of the day, the Chiefs are the better team. So how I look at it is +7 or -7 for the Chiefs just is not something I feel comfortable playing. So honestly, I would go with the Bengals +7. I think that's a pretty good cushion there. And you also have a great chance at getting a push regardless. But overall, I think my final score for this one, I got the Chiefs winning this one 31-26. Like I said, I think the Chiefs will kind of dominate this game, but I think the Bengals will keep it close and make the score maybe look closer than the game actually is. So I think with this matchup this week, I kind of want to look at a specific matchup, and really it's this conflicting strategy that I'm looking at that is just so intriguing to me. So the Bengals gave up 9 sacks last week to the Titans, which was an NFL playoff record. Joe Burrow got hit 13 times in that game, which is just unheard of. I mean, and this is why everyone said, oh, why didn't the Bengals draft Penei Sewell in the first round instead of Jamar Chase? Well, flip side of that is Jamar Chase has been absolutely incredible. So the Bengals offense line is going to have to hold up. Good news for them is they're taking on a Chiefs defense that is in the bottom 5 in sacks this season. So it's kind of one of those things, which one is going to break here? And I have a hunch that the Bengals offensive line is going to break once again. I think Chris Jones and those guys for the Chiefs are going to get after the quarterback a little bit too much and make Burrow a little bit uncomfortable at moments in this game. So moving on to the Sunday at 5:30 game, the Rams, they are a 3.5-point favorite. It is a 46 over-under as they welcome the San Francisco 49ers to the house. This is one I'm smashing the over here. This is my bet of the week. I think this is going to hit the over. The weather will be good in Los Angeles. The last time these two teams played was just, again, a few weeks ago, and it was 24-24 after 4 quarters, which would have covered this spread. I mean, would have gone over as well. So I anticipate it's going to go over. I don't see the 49ers being able to hold Matthew Stafford and company under 24 points in regulation. My hunch is they'll have more like 30 or be near 30. And then on the flip side, I think the 49ers, this is kind of one of those games where you look at it and go, okay, the Rams stopped the run pretty well. We know that won't matter for the 49ers. They're going to try to run the football with Elijah Mitchell. But I do think it will mean that Jimmy G is going to throw the ball more, try to expand the offense a little bit, and take some shots and take some risks. And I think some of those will pay off, and some of those will lead to turnovers, which, again, I think that favors the over here. Now, as far as the game goes, I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game. I think it will be a close one, but I think the Rams are going to cover here. I think they're going to cover the 3.5-point spread just barely. I think the Rams are a team that's destined to play in the Super Bowl, and I think they're going to get this job done, especially at home and especially coming off of the loss they had to the 49ers right before the playoffs started. So again, I'm going to take the Rams here to cover 3.5 points. I'm going to take the over here as well, the over 46. My matchup in this one to watch is it's an intriguing one between two running backs. So we've seen Cam Akers just absolutely take over this backfield. He's getting all kinds of touches in these first 2 games of the playoffs and has looked really good coming off that Achilles injury, and is a guy who I know in the fantasy football world, he's a guy who's rising up boards again, and obviously he was going to be a first-round pick last year till he tore his Achilles. Now we're back to this point in the offseason where everyone is talking about Cam Akers, and for good reason. He looks explosive, he looks like a pass catcher, and he looks like a workhorse running back for this Rams offense. On the flip side, another really young running back, Elijah Mitchell, who has had a breakout season. I don't anticipate this ending next year. For those of y'all who are listening to this with kind of fantasy brain on the mind, I think Elijah Mitchell is going to be a great running back going forward. I think he's going to be the guy in the San Francisco 49ers backfield, and he's been the guy in the playoffs. He leads all running backs, all ball carriers, doesn't matter who, in rushing yards so far in the NFL playoffs. So he's been very effective in these first 2 games against pretty tough competition with the Cowboys and the Packers as their first 2 matchups. So I'm very intrigued by that matchup between those 2 young running backs and seeing, who gets more work and who's more valuable to their team in this really just epic conference championship matchup. So yeah, I think these are going to be 2 really good games. I think the NFL playoffs are going to continue to be very competitive. We're seeing right now, just such great quarterback play, such great defensive play as well at times. So I think it's going to be very intriguing. But yes, for these matchups, I have the Chiefs and Rams winning. I have the Chiefs or the Bengals to cover. So +7 here, the Bengals +7 against the Chiefs. I think they'll do a nice job. I have the over in that one. And then in the Rams versus 49ers, I have the over 46, and I have the Rams covering the 3.5 points. But For NFL on 365 Sports, this has been Grayson Grunhafer. I hope everyone enjoys their NFL playoff Sunday.